Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leaders Lab podcast. Today, I have another wonderful guest for you, my new good friend, Jelina. We met in the social circle a few weeks ago with a wonderful chat right after that. And then I knew right away that I had to bring her because she doesn't just have an empowering and inspiring story. She definitely has what I'm really looking for, which is people who have goosebump inducing stories. And when I heard the stories, I was getting goosebump because this is exactly what she has and what she's done. And in a nutshell, she's from Los Angeles. She's a clinical pharmacist and holistic diabetes health coach. And she's been a pharmacist in in the healthcare business for over 16 years. And she works with women over 45 or struggling with their weight and have a fear of diabetes. And she basically helps women, people basically get them on a health journey so they feel more confident and empowered without the feeling shame, restriction, restricted, or deprived. And her story, as far as her story is concerned, she lost a bunch of weight. The exact number, let me find it again here. 65 pounds over time. She has a history of diabetes in the family, and she really had to make some drastic changes to take control of her life and get off medications, and be able to live a long healthy life for herself, her family. And this is now what she's doing to inspire other women do the same. So it's going to be a beautiful conversation. There's so much to talk to. Plus, she has a great personality and contagious smile. So, Jelina, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Pleasure on mine. First of all, tell us, how are you doing today?
Oh my gosh, I'm doing great. I'm enjoying the sunshine here in sunny Los Angeles. So happy it's summer.
Yes, indeed. So for people who don't know you, over and beyond the very brief intro I gave you, who's Jelina? We're going to talk about your professional background, your impact, your business later, but as a person, as a woman, as a human being, who's Jelina?
Oh man, great question. I like to see myself as a person who is very empathetic and kind. And I became this way because of not only my upbringing, but my own personal struggles with my health and with my mental health. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm just like a kind person that feels like she's here to be in service for others. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. I feel like I have a purpose to be here now. And that's exactly what I want to do, is just help as many people as possible so they didn't have to struggle or don't have to struggle the way that I did for so many years.
Absolutely beautiful. Love that. Now, to start off, I'd like to ask you a series of rapid fire questions to further get to know you. Ready?
Whew, okay, I'm ready.
All right, let's rock and roll. All right, tell us, what makes you happy as a person?
Being around things that bring me joy, like my dog or a good laugh from a friend. Yeah.
What kind of dog do you have?
Oh my God, I have a Havanese. He is 16 pounds in my fur baby. He is, yeah, and it's crazy. I'll have to tell you sometime how I ended up with him, because I didn't even have a dog and I was in Manhattan, and before I know it, like I was flying on a plane with the dog. It was crazy, but
dogs are truly special. Absolutely. We have a dog, and that boy completely stole my heart, you know?
Yes. Yeah, my heart is definitely stolen. He has me wrapped around his paw. I mean,
absolutely,
for sure.
Absolutely. Now, what makes you smile?
Oh my gosh. Just like honestly, seeing his little face. I just like saw it today. He like looks up at me and those big old eyes, and yeah, but I'm obsessed with my dog. Yeah. I'm just,
we have a golden retriever at home, and I called it's actually my sister's and her husband's dog, but it's like ours. I absolutely love him to death. And I called him few weeks ago on FaceTime. And as soon as he saw me, he looked at me, realizing if it was really me. And then he went to what he does usually whenever I go to the house. He started picking up his toy and comes looking at me and wanted to jump with me. That completely broke my heart. Say, oh, baby, why are you doing this? You're killing me. You make me melt, you know?
Oh my God, they're so sweet. I know. I'm like,
know.
sometimes I feel like we don't deserve dogs. They're like such gentle, awesome creatures. Yes. Aw.
And our dog now is a big boy, almost like a pretty big, like a tiger. But it's
Oh.
amazing, amazing. He's a big
Aw.
boy. He's 2 years. Actually, on July 14th is going to be his birthday. He's going to turn what? He's going to turn 2 or 3, something
Oh
like
my
that.
gosh. So he's still kind of puppy-like.
But he's a big boy,
Yes.
massive.
Oh,
Yeah, but he's
Manny's
amazing.
a lap dog. Yeah, Manny is like 16 pounds. So he is small and he like will
Yeah.
sit in your, he's very cuddly, but he's a lap dog. He's not big.
Our dog never, ever barks. In 3 years since we have him, I've probably seen him bark less than 5 times. He's the quietest, the sweetest dog. He looks big and intimidating, but he's super sweet.
Oh my, Manny thinks he's like a badass. Like he will just like, he like has a lot of bark, but no bite. And he doesn't usually just bark, but only when I'm home. And like, he'll see a spider and then hide behind my legs. I mean, he's all bark, all bark.
It's usually the smaller dogs or the loudest. That also applies to people too, you know?
You know, that's true. There's just, I think you just have a lot to prove sometimes, or you feel like you gotta have a presence.
Hey,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Anyways.
Like Napoleon. Yes.
Yes, it did. All right, so let's take the happiness factor a couple of notches higher. What makes your heart sing? What brings your soul on fire?
Honestly, it is helping people who are like struggling or suffering. Like, and if it's in a way that like, especially in a subject, like when it comes to science, I am such a nerd. So when it comes to something where there's like a scientific explanation, I will be the first to let you know. I'm like, oh, you're having this because this, this part of your brain, the amygdala is lit up. We need to move this. This is how you take care of that. And so that like, I have so much joy from teaching other people about things that are happening in their body, because I am such a geek when it comes to science.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what makes you sad and angry?
I think, well, it's just like any injustices, especially against those that aren't able to speak for themselves. So whether it is an animal or a child or someone with disabilities, those situations. I have a sister that's mentally and physically disabled. And so I have a really soft spot in my heart for people that can't advocate for themselves, or even like creatures that can't advocate for themselves. So maybe I might be small and probably really loud too, but that's why.
What scares you?
Oh man, a lot of things scare me. I think the thing that scares me the most is like not doing what I feel like I was meant to do, like not fulfilling my life's purpose, like not leaving behind a legacy that, not leaving this world better than I had gotten here. That's what scares me, that I'm just going to leave and it would have been the world is no different. That to me is like my deepest fear.
And what is your purpose? What is your legacy? Why are you Jelina in this lifetime, in this planet? I know it's a big, massive question.
Oh, I know. I'm like, okay. I was like, where am I? Yeah. I'm like, did I didn't even grab the tissues? I might need some of those. I believe my purpose is to help as many people as possible. And I don't know exactly how that looks like all of the time. I think right now it's in the ways that I can coach, or the ways I can be a good friend or a good family member. But my legacy, it's like, I want someone to feel like, God, like she made me laugh, or she was really there for me when I needed her, or that, I don't know, it's like, sometimes like you think, I don't know, this is like so morbid, but I think like if someone's going to eulogize me, I hope that they feel like, you know, something in their heart, like, oh, like this world's a little sad because she's like not here. But it's because of the things like the way I make people feel. Like I want people to feel like they're loved and they belong. So,
Yeah, I hear you. Wow. What would you say is your number one personal superpower?
oh my gosh.
I know you have quite a few, but the number one.
The number one superpower, I think I'm a pretty good listener. Like I can, but it's not just like the listening piece. Sometimes I'm able to hear the subtext of like what you're trying to actually say. Like sometimes I think people say certain things, but it's not really what they mean. And I feel like I have this ability to sometimes catch these little nuanced things that they're trying to say. And that to me feels like a superpower and a gift to have that kind of perception.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, what lights you up in the morning when you wake up?
Oh my God. I moved to California because it was like my soul's calling. So every day I wake up here and I look out my window and I see a palm tree, and that like lights my heart on fire.
Where did you move from?
I moved from Denver, Colorado. So it was cold and snowy some of the time. It's like, was not a mountain girl. I'm more of a beach
I
girl.
feel your pain, sister. I feel your pain coming from Toronto. I feel it totally.
Yes.
I definitely don't miss the shoveling. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Absolutely. Awesome. Now, what is one thing that you didn't value before that you now value?
You know, I think a really witty friend. Like I took for granted. I have a lot of really funny, witty friends in Colorado, and I had them for so long, like decades. And so when I moved, I think I took for granted the ease and the fun that comes with knowing someone for such a long time and just laughing about anything. I love people that have a great sense of humor and are very witty and funny. So
Happy. You see the life in them, you know? That's what I like most, you know?
yes, and there's so much intelligence that comes with someone that's quick-witted. Like to be able to turn a situation in like to a point where you're laughing so hard where you're crying. Like and to like have that banter back with somebody like that, to me, that is something I took for granted
Totally.
for having it for so long, and I miss it.
Totally. Now, what is the one thing that you used to value that you don't value anymore? The opposite of the first question.
Yeah, I don't value like I don't put as much emphasis now on like my weight and like I'm don't get me wrong, I'm like thankful for my body and I'm proud of my body and all of that stuff. But looking back now, I think my fixation on that was just like was unnecessary and really just sad. I don't value that aspect of my personality, the superficialness of all of that.
I hear you. Now, let's move forward. You enjoy traveling, right?
I love to travel.
Okay, we can do an entire episode just on traveling, but we're gonna save that for next time. But let me take you down a different type of trip. No, not the ayahuasca, but down the memory line. Go back to when you're growing up. You know, when we're kids, people around us, family, relatives, teachers, friends, neighbors, always ask us, "Hey, Jelina, what do you want to become when you grow up?" What was your answer to that question as a little girl?
It was always two things. I wanted to be a teacher and a doctor.
Why? Did you have someone in your family that inspired you, or just because it sounded cool?
I think I wanted to be a doctor because I didn't want to lose my Indian card. My parents are Indian, and like you were either like an Indian or an engineer if you were like successful. So I knew that was the answer I had to give them. But I think I always loved teaching. When I was a little girl, I used to put out my stuffed animals on the bed, like, and I'd have 2 rows of them, and I would make worksheets, and then I'd hand them out. Like my stuffed animals were probably the smartest in the entire block because they were taught every day by me, the teacher. So they learned a lot. I graded papers. That was something that was so fun for me. I loved doing that kind of
Nice.
stuff when I was younger.
Awesome. So growing up, what was your relationship with school? Did you love school? Did you hate school?
Oh, I loved school. I loved school. I loved learning. I still love learning. I'm doing it all the time, every day. Like I will find a way to take a class or something. I have such a thirst when it comes to learning. There's so much to learn, and there's always something new, and something you learn that gets outdated. So especially now, so quickly.
What was your favorite subject? I kind of know the answer, but I want to hear it from you.
I would just say it's probably science. Yeah, science and psychology. I think they do go hand in hand. There's something about understanding the way that people tick that I think is so fascinating. And then the way the body actually works it's like a symphony. I think it's so beautiful. And also it's like one thing goes wrong and a whole host of things can go completely haywire, or things could just go perfectly well. So I just find that whole situation fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. And was there any subject that you did not like at all?
PE, because I was a fat kid. So
Ah,
I did not like to run. I didn't like to try to climb a rope and get rope burns on my hand. I was scared of heights. So being on the balance beam was none of my business. So yeah, I was, not athletic as a child. So yeah, PE was a nightmare.
mhm. What kind of student were you? Imagine we're in the same class in grade 10, grade 11. I kind of know the answer, but I want to, again, hear it from you. Were the nerdy girl? Were you the
Oh,
shy, the chat box, the life of the party? What kind
no,
of,
I was definitely the nerd. I was definitely the nerd. Like I was sitting there, like doing all the calculations. Yeah, like I was the nerd.
Mhm.
100%. And in drama. So I was a drama nerd nonetheless. So I don't even know. It's just, yeah.
So is this why you were attracted towards psychology?
Maybe I could do something with that. I was, just fascinated with all the different personalities.
Were you the type of person that all your friends went to you to help them with whatever issues they had?
I actually still am that friend. I have people calling all the time. Like, I have this going on. It actually, like you asked me what makes me smile. That's another thing that does make me smile. It makes me, I'm not that they're going through pain, but that I
Mm,
am able to like help them in any way I can, even if that just means they only need an ear or if they actually need some advice, either way.
absolutely. Were you popular with the boys in school?
No, no, not even a little bit. I was an overweight, chunky kid in a very white place, and I'm brown, and I was a nerd. So no one looked at me twice. No one was looking at me.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the way I see it, things like this, for example, I see it as a way from the universe to protect us. At
Mm.
least that's my take. You know, if something doesn't happen the way I want it, it's not I don't deserve it. It's just that to protect me and the universe, something better, bigger for me. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I don't know if I would use the word protection, but I think that the universe does have
Mhm.
other plans.
Sure.
And sometimes like we just don't know how they're going to unfold. And it didn't come until like I was like later in life that sometimes I see a door close and I don't realize that something else is opening. Because at the time, you're like, well, the door is closed and this is the only way out. And you don't realize that, if you look around, there are other things happening. So
Mm.
I think I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And there are things I had to go through in my life to get to where I'm at. This reminds me, I don't know if you ever read the book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning,
Let me write this
but
down. Okay, that's a beautiful. I love writing books recommendations. Okay, what is it again? The search
It's
from
Viktor Frankl, and he wrote this book called Man's Search for Meaning. He was
search
a,
from
a Holocaust
oh,
survivor, and he was I believe a therapist. And what happened was he had a big old theory. He had written it all down, but of course he got put into the concentration camps, and he had created something called logo theory. And
oh,
what it has to do with is like you put meaning behind the things that you go through in life, and that's how we survive. Because he noticed that people in the concentration camps were those that were really optimistic that they were going to get out by Christmas. When Christmas would come and go, they would get really depressed. So they may have been really optimistic up until that time, and then they get really depressed. But it's the people that understood that what they were going through, once they assigned a meaning to what they were going through, those are the people that survived. And those are the people that made it through and to the other side. And so to your point, I think this is kind of logo theory, that we have an option. When we assign meaning to it, then we give it a purpose, then we stop our own suffering. Because we're going to, like, the Buddhists say, you're going to suffer. Like, life has a lot of lessons it's going to teach us, and they're not going to be easy. But when you assign like meaning to the suffering, it doesn't make it like so futile. It doesn't mean that it like means nothing. It actually gives us something to like hang on to
look for
and makes us stronger.
just like in business or whatever in life. What's your why? Is your why strong enough to get you going over the obstacles? Absolutely. Yeah. Beautiful. Definitely gonna check this book out. Thank you. Now,
Yeah.
what was your very first job? Do you remember how much you got paid for the first time?
Oh my God. I worked as there was a blind student. This is how much of a nerd I am. There was a blind student at the college, and she needed someone to take notes for her because she was legally blind, but she could see. So what I had to do was just like take notes for her in a class that I was already in. So I was getting paid to take notes in the class. So
How much were you getting paid for?
I can't, I think it was like, I don't even know. I want to say it was like $5 or $10. I can't even remember an hour. It wasn't a lot, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, let's move forward. How would you describe your path from the moment you left school to now? Would you say it was pretty much straightforward, smooth sailing? Once you're into one lane, you were set for life? Or was it more like turns and twists, like a roller coaster?
I think I tried really hard to make it one lane. I think that's the type A personality in me, because
But
I'm
it's
such a big, yes.
but it's kind of boring, don't you think? If it's
Okay, well,
very
listen, at the time I was like happy it was boring. Yeah, like, because like I was in school, so they teach you in school, like, you do this and you're gonna get an A. You do this, you're gonna graduate. And I tried to apply that. Turns out real life is nothing like that. Who knew? They don't really prep you for that in school. So yeah,
Yeah.
you can follow all the rules, but turns out that's not how real life doesn't reward you when you follow all the rules sometimes. And so it was a little rough. I mean, getting into pharmacy, school was fine. And then I left school, and it, like, even taking my pharmacist license, like, somebody cheated on the test when I was taking it. So they shut it down nationally. So then I had to wait months before I could take it and get a job. And so, yeah, I ran into a lot of things, and I was working at a place that I hated. And I thought, oh my God, I just spent 4 years getting a doctorate, and I'm counting pills out, and people are asking me where the ketchup is because I'm in a grocery store. And they think I just worked my way up from being a bagger to like this back here counting pills. And truth is, they have a doctorate. So I didn't feel like I was in a good space there. And then, I got a great job, and then I was like, oh, I'm just tired of Colorado. I want to move. And I ended up getting a job that I loved doing, helping people with diabetes. But then the clinic I was working at, like, my doctors love me, my patients love me, but I'm a pharmacist getting people off of medications. It wasn't really people didn't look upon me very well. I suppose that was part of the problem when you're a pharmacist and you're getting people off of drugs, not always appreciated in some places.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
that was, so that was kind of, I think, part of it. I mean, amongst some other like political things that were going on behind the scenes, and being told, things from like men that were there that was completely inappropriate. And it just like it was hard. And I ended up deciding that it would be best for me to like leave and do my own thing. And now I'm an entrepreneur, and I have to tell you, this lane is nothing but twists and turns and backpedaling and reversing and parallel parking and everything in between. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I've been there. Absolutely, yes. There's a saying that says, change your story internally to change your life externally. So when you're Jelina, you're at some of your lowest, darkest times of your life. How did you change your story inside your head to change your reality outside of you?
I think this is a tool. And I had to learn this because I didn't have this in me, and I didn't have it for most of my life. And it wasn't until like pretty recently, within like the last 5 years or so, that I started to learn through a life coach that there are like, the way I was viewing my life wasn't in the lens that would be the most beneficial to me. Like, so yeah, I had to learn it. I had to have someone be like, is this really true what you're thinking? Is it possible that something else is true? Is there a different way to look at this? And so, yeah, I don't have a real sexy answer. I had to learn it, just like I learned most other things in my life. It was a lesson that came after a lot of hardships and just not wanting to keep feeling the same way. Like, I was so tired of feeling defeated and like the world was against me all of the time, because that's what it felt like. Like, it felt like nothing was ever going my way. And it wasn't, I was like, I can't live like this. So I got a life coach, and I was like, I just need help to navigate the world, because I was so emotionally dysregulated. And so she helped me really give me some tools of like, well, think about things this way, or what would happen if you did this, and what happens when you speak your truth. Because that's the other thing, I think, in my years of, being Indian and being a woman and all these things, I think you get conditioned sometimes that you're not allowed to say the things that you really feel, and you're supposed to keep them inside. And I really took that with me. Like, I'm supposed to be nice all the time, and I'm not supposed to disrupt, and I have to be polite, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And a lot of times that came at such a big cost of my own heart and my own authenticity and my own spirit. So it was kind of hiring someone to give me the tools, but kind of undoing all the knots that I had done along the way.
One thing that I can relate with is, you mentioned a couple of times you being Indian and how that affected you in some way. So how much would you say the weight of expectation from family, from cultural expectations, really affected you, and to some extent even held you back?
A lot. Like, to be clear, if my parents ever listen to this, I love them, and they did the best they could.
Yeah.
But it did hold me back a lot, because I was always constantly in a position of pleasing. Like, I was always pleasing. Like, I didn't, would I have chosen being a pharmacist? I love pharmacy. I'm not sure I still would have chosen that. I'm not sure if I would have chosen a different profession. I'm not sure if I would have lived somewhere different sooner. I'm not sure, where my life would have gone, but I do know that there are a lot of expectations. And I do know that I have constantly felt like I've let my parents down. I'm not married, and I'm like in my 40s. My parents are thinking like, you're a spinster. Like, my mom's completely given up, basically. But like, for a year, like, my mom's been trying to marry me off since I was like 12. I wasn't even old enough to drive yet. And she was like, ready. Yeah. She's like, let's go. And I think like, yeah, so a lot of those, and then it's like a piece of me was rebellious, because at some point I'd be like, I don't want to get married now, because it's been pushed on me so much. And so, yeah, I do think there were a lot of expectations, the way I'm supposed to behave, and I grew up in the US. So it's like their ways of dating here, the ways that we interact with each other here is culturally different than when my dad left India in the 70s. Now, it's progressed since then, but my dad's mind is still set back in 1970s India when he moved here initially. He's progressive now. I don't want to say that he's not, but like, when I was growing up, we weren't there yet. So it does present a different set of challenges. growing up with the outfits I wore, with, you know, where I could go, like what's going on with prom, like all of these things that we take for granted in the US culture aren't things we were doing, you know, in the Indian culture, and vice versa. It's hard too with the American standards because I'm like smelling like curry and people are making, you know, like people are like, what's that? And like, what are you
At
eating?
least
And
you
I
don't
have
do
henna.
this, you know?
Yeah. And I remember I would have henna on my hands. And when I was in middle school or in like elementary school, that was weird. It was weird to have henna on your hands because no one had it then. Like there was no Gwen
What's
Stefani
wrong
to
with
make it
you?
cool. Yeah, exactly.
No, I can relate to
So
that. I can relate because I'm an Afghan Canadian, and just like you, you know, especially the weight of expectation, especially getting married, you know, since I was
yeah,
probably 18.
yes,
Each time we have those events or the wedding, the first question relatives ask you, so when is your turn? You know, when is your
yes,
turn? When I'm gonna
yes,
see my grandkids, you know? So, and now
yes.
it's like you, they've given up, you know?
Yes. Yeah. They ask all that. And it's like, and like, especially being a woman too, they're like, don't you want to have kids? What are you going to do? Like, you know, this is, and it's like, also, I'm like, this is none of your business what I'm doing. Stay out of it. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I know. I hear, totally hear you. And also, you know, wow. Did you have any pressure from, for example, your family? For example, for me, my father was a highly educated person. He was always reminding me, hey, by the time I was your age, I only had my master's. You still have no clue what you want to do. You know, did you have those kind of? Either my father wasn't trying to be mean to me, but it's a way. It was his way to motivate me, to push me. That's all he knew. You know.
Yeah.
Did you go through that as
Yes,
well?
I had that too to an extent. Like, so I have to preface this with my dad's sister. Like, she had been through a lot, and at the time, being divorced was not looked upon fondly, especially in India. And she was really not left with a lot of resources. So my dad's number one thing for me was education. He wanted to make sure that I could financially take care of myself without having a husband, because he saw what happened to his sister and did not want that to happen to me. So I appreciate my dad for that so much. But what comes along with that expectation is, I remember very, very crystal clear. I was like, I think it was in the first or second grade. I'm pretty sure it was in first grade. We did parent teacher conferences and my dad came and we went to the teacher, and I think it was like English or history. And I got an A minus. Okay. Now, any of my white friends, okay, they would have been like, they would have gotten like
Celebrating.
a car. Okay. Like they would have gotten a car. They would have gotten like a party. My dad comes up and rolls in and he was like, why didn't you get an A plus? And it's like, what does she need to do better? And I remember I was like, I was like, what was A minus? This is like great. But my dad was not satisfied with that. And I remember the teacher was like, she could be president if she wanted to. She's so smart. She's like, whatever. Like the teacher was like, you know, was advocating for me. And I remember feeling like, God, I'm such a disappointment. Like I got an A minus. And so that really pushed me to like try really hard in school because I didn't want to disappoint him. So sometimes I would set my expectations higher than he would, because at least then I couldn't disappoint him. But I often, as a result of that, disappointed myself a lot.
Absolutely. You know, for me, when I decided I was planned to go to law school. I did everything, prepared everything, but when I at the last minute, a book changed my life, The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. When I decided not to submit my application and instead of my own business, my parents were horrified. So your life is over.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing this to yourself? Have you lost your mind? You know, they didn't understand that entrepreneurship was an option, because coming back from the background they have, for them, they're very old school, traditional, but very open-minded as well. Of course, they wanted the best for me, but it wasn't, they didn't understand that, hey, there's more to being successful than just being a doctor or lawyer or an engineer or whatever, traditional way.
Yeah. I did the same thing. My last year, I was actually pre-med. I was going to do medical school. And then my senior year, I had a mentor pull me aside and she was like, do you really want to do this? Like, if you do want a family, you're going to be on call. You're going to be busy. You're going to be doing all these things. Like, I don't like really think about like what it is that you want to do. And even then I knew I wanted to serve people. I wanted to teach and I wanted to be like of service. So I knew being a pharmacist meant I was a healthcare professional, but they had easier access to me. And so with that, I was like, oh, okay, the hours are going to be better and all that. So the last year I changed to make sure I had all the which was very similar to medical school, but I didn't have to take the MCATs or anything like that. So yeah, I understand that there was some disappointment too from my family, because I still was getting a doctorate, but I wasn't a real doctor, like real doctor in quotes. So.
And I will never forget the moment I started making money online, my parents were concerned. They were concerned. Hey, is this legal what you're doing? I don't have the cops show at my door. Are you selling drugs?
Oh no.
Because they were seeing me on my computer, waking up when I wanted, traveling the world. Back then, like 12 years ago, I was watching a lot of football and all that. Say, when are you actually doing any work? Say, well, you work smart, not hard.
Yes.
They didn't understand that. But
Yes.
they finally get it when I showed them, hey, this is what I do, this is what I offer. That's how I help people save a lot of money while having an amazing fun. My first business was a travel business. And when they saw that, they said, wow, good job.
Amazing.
Yeah, beautiful. So now let's switch gears. I want to talk about something that, and that's going to transition into your business and impact. And that is, you mentioned growing up, you were the fat kid.
Yeah.
What was the moment that made you stop and say, enough of that? I'm sick and tired of being the fat kid. I want to take control of my life. I'm sick and tired of being on all these medications. And if I continue like this, I will have a whole host of medical issues. So was that a specific moment that made you say enough is enough? Was it something progressive over time?
Well, I wasn't on any meds yet, so it wasn't on anything. What happened is I think like it was probably close to, sorry, moved my chair and I ran over his little, he got nervous about his foot.
He wants to say hi. He's welcome to say hi if he wants.
Oh, he'll probably come around. Oh, here he is. This is his little.
Hello. How are you doing, buddy?
He's like, better when you weren't running me over. Yeah. So I think it was in pharmacy school. I was stressed out. I've always been overweight, always struggled with my weight. And then I did some things where it's I work out all the time and all this stuff, but try to work out and then, lose a couple pounds here and there. But I always struggled with my weight. And one day I was 65 pounds heavier. So it's probably, at the peak of my weight. And it was the peak of my weight. And I walked into the doctor's office and my dad had been diagnosed with diabetes. And I had seen his struggles, as far as not being able to eat sweets. And at the time, I really did use food as a comfort and as a friend. So I'd walked in, I was 65 pounds heavier, and my doctor walks in. I had labs drawn a week before or whatever. She comes in, she's not even looking at me. She's looking at my chart. She starts shaking her head and she looks up at me and she goes, it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when you're going to have diabetes. And it was that moment.
How old were you at that time?
Oh man, I think it was in my 20s. Yeah.
Did you fully understand what that meant?
I understood that my life was going to have to change because I did not want the life my dad had or was experiencing at the moment. I didn't want to, not having a simple bite of cake or a cookie ever again was terrifying. And, diabetes sounds big and scary because it affects your entire body. I mean, I didn't even know to what extent it was going to affect me, but you hear about people on diabetes needing amputations and losing their eyesight. And so I knew it was bad, but yeah, that was the moment where I was like, okay, well, I got to do something because this is not the way I want this to go. So I really explored, went to Dr. Google, because all she left me with, they do these things, these doctors, they give you the vaguest advice. And they're like, okay, how about you just, eat nothing but like just eat healthy and exercise more. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. So yeah, I went to Dr. Google and he told me to have everything on the internet, because everything on the internet's true. Basically it said like, cut your calories. So I was eating like 1,200 calories, which isn't a lot, and working out 1 to 2 hours a day, doing like
Was
cardio.
that 1,200 calories per day or per
per
meal?
day.
Okay,
Per
wow.
day.
That's undernourished. Wow.
Well, if you look and see, they'll tell you that as a woman, that's the amount of calories you need if you want to lose weight.
Wow.
That's the minimum calories. You are absolutely right. This is why I was like, I would joke around and say I was like fat, but I was full at least the first time I went to the doctor. But now I'm like overweight and I'm always hungry. I was starving all the time. Well, yeah, there's very little calories. And on top of that, I'm burning these calories, right? So look, I'm Indian. My math skills are up to par, So I was like, I'm doing the math here. And I'm like, I was counting every calorie I was getting in and I was working out. And I'm like, why am I not losing any weight? So it wasn't making any sense. And so that was like, that's when I knew like something, I just couldn't figure out what was wrong. And the other problem is then you think there's something wrong with you.
Walking out of the doctor's office that day, what was the very first thing that you did, that you implemented towards changing your life?
After it was just the calorie counting, I started to pay attention. Don't get me wrong. Like, it wasn't like I started to eat all these vegetables or whatever. I was like, oh, if they say 1,200 calories and you need a 500 calorie a day deficit, then I would just like eat SnackWells or non-fat things and like packaged foods that were low in calories. Cause it'd be like, oh, this is 100-calorie packet. And that's what I would end up eating. But turns out like 100 calories from something like that, that's all processed and full of chemicals, is not the same as 100 calories from like broccoli.
Absolutely. Wow.
But I didn't know that at the time.
Sure. So how did that lead you towards your business?
Well, it started off with a friend of mine who was I was holding a book club, and at the book club, whoever was hosting is responsible for dinner and appetizers and wine. So I had lots of wine. I had all the meals. I put out the cheese platter. And because I was doing non-fat, because that was what was being promoted by the government at the time, was a low fat or non-fat diet with calorie restriction to lose weight. So I'd put out all the things that I couldn't eat, but I was a good host. So I was going to put out everything. And my friend Laura walks in, she was 60 pounds lighter. She looks so good. I hadn't been to book club in a couple of months. So I was like, I could not understand what happened. So I thought like for sure she was taking some diet pill or something. And turns out I like pulled her aside basically because I was like, what happened? And she had basically told me like she wasn't doing any deprivation. She wasn't restricting herself. She wasn't doing hours at the gym. And it was at that point that I realized like whatever I'm doing while she's chomping on that cheese and sipping on that wine and I'm looking at her, I was like, I want to be doing whatever it is she's doing because whatever I'm doing is not working. And I was miserable because I was always restricting and always feeling deprived. Yeah.
Wow. So now tell us more about your business. What exactly do you do? Would you help? How are you making an impact?
Right now, I help people with pre-diabetes and basically they're chronic dieters. So if you were anyone like me where dieting is a hobby, like I'd be like, yeah, they'd ask me what my hobbies were. And I'd be like, dancing, hanging out with friends, traveling, and dieting, because that's all I ever did was diet all of the time. So if you're a chronic dieter, you've tried everything from like juice fast to vegan to gluten-free to like whatever was going to work. Like that was me, tried everything. And I help people that have been there and still cannot lose the weight, cannot understand why, but I help them with their bodies, because the one thing I also was having issues with was like loving myself as I am. I lost the weight, don't get me wrong, in the process. But now it's like, if my weight fluctuates 5 or 10 pounds, like 5 pounds up, 5 pounds down, I don't get stressed out about it the way I used to. So I just want to help other people not worry about getting diabetes, because it is such a prevalent disease. It is so awful how it impacts your entire body. And yeah, so I just want to help people with their health journey and just feel more confident and empowered, because there's so many things that we don't understand when we're making our decisions.
What is the number one piece of advice you can give to someone right now to prevent diabetes? Or if they
It's
have
not,
it, to reduce it or eventually reverse it?
you can, I mean, I think like it's a lot harder once you've crossed that threshold, but it's never too late to change is all I will say. Like, no matter what damage has been done, you know, some of it may be permanent, but a majority of it may not be. So the sooner you decide to change, the better, but it's never too late. You can start at any time. I have clients that are in their 60s and 70s that are feeling better than they did when they were in their 40s, because they've made massive impacts in the way that they decide to, you know, move forward with their health journey. So you can feel good. Your health span and your lifespan, as Dr. Hyman says, should match. And I agree wholeheartedly. Like, just because you have a long life, it should be a healthy one too, because otherwise, if the quality isn't as good, it's
That's
not
the
worth
point.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what tangible, actionable tip can you give to someone to reduce or lower the risk or even prevent getting diabetes?
I mean, I don't think I have anything that's like ground shaking or ground, you know, shattering, but like really pay attention to what you are eating. I mean, truly, because here's the thing, you are what your food eats. So we got a couple things here with that. One, if your food's eating a bunch of pesticides or red Skittles, then you're going to be basically eating what that food is eating. So if it's eating a bunch of garbage, like, you're going to be also getting a bunch of garbage in your body. And that's going to be the foundation for what makes your hair cells, your muscle cells, like, do you want that made out of Doritos and, you know, cupcakes? Like, no, you want it good foundational things. So be careful of what you're eating, because there are a lot of things out there that we can't even pronounce, and that is scary.
So basically, sugars out, processed food, fast food. And from what I understood from talking with Louisa, the other lady that I mentioned to you earlier, she said, you know, carbs, pasta, bread, anything like that. Anything else you'd like to add to that list?
Yeah, I don't think you should cut anything out.
Oh, wow.
No, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in deprivation. I don't believe in restriction. I believe that there is a time and a place. Look, I think you should pay attention to what you're eating. Your food is like, and how you feel. That's the other thing. I think we're so disconnected from our bodies. We're not paying attention to how we actually feel. If you eat something and you're tired afterwards, you have to question, like, what did you eat that is fueling your body or not fueling your body? If you're not feeling energized, there's something going on. Do I think you have to give up everything? Absolutely not. That's not life. That's not living. We celebrate our cultures. Almost name a culture that doesn't celebrate using food.
None.
So life is about celebrating. Life is about all sorts of things, and food is a part of it. So when we sit there and we deprive and we restrict and we remove all of these things, like, you can't have that, you can't have this. One, it makes us want it more. Two, it's unrealistic. I had 2 pieces of cake on Saturday. I still look great, but I know what I have to do the few days after to take care of my body and myself. I also know that my sugar cravings went up Sunday and Monday. You know, it's like, okay, no, I'm going to want to eat more sugar. You don't need to stop eating everything, but you do want to pay attention. So it's like, should I be having a whole bowl of pasta? Maybe not. You know, but, you know, maybe cut back a little bit and get some of that good stuff to fuel your body first, and then eat what you want. Eat what you need first, and then eat what you want. And you're going to find that you're going to want more of what you need. Our bodies work that way. That's how cravings work. So yeah, it's easy to say to take all this out. And that's what most of the diet companies trying to sell us anyway. That's what most people are trying to tell you. You have to remove everything. And it's I have known for years, like over a decade, I lived my life eating hardly anything at all. And it was so miserable. And I felt so unhappy. So no, I don't think you should cut anything out. I think you should pay attention, but don't cut anything out. If you really love eating your Doritos, then eat them every once in a while. If you want a cake at your birthday party, eat it. Like, you want pasta when you're out once a month, fine. Like, it shouldn't impact you so much that you can't have it. Now, if that's all you're eating all the time, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's not that cupcake you had on Saturday or that bowl of pasta you had on Monday is gonna make an effect. But if you do that every day, that's when the problem arises. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Who would you say is your ideal client avatar?
I think my person is probably between like 40 and 60 years old, and she's tired of dieting.
Mhm.
She's ready to embark on a part of like just being in health in her life. She wants to have more energy. She's probably sitting at her job and she's so tired. She wants things that are convenient, but doesn't want to like be unhealthful. So yeah, she's ready to make some changes and that don't require a lot of effort, and will get her some really great results.
Speaking of results, share with us an example of the most transformational example you've seen from one of your clients so far.
My client, Susan, she lost 50 pounds in less than a year.
Wow.
She visited me and she couldn't even walk 2 blocks. We had to get in the car. We had to drive 2 blocks to the restaurant I wanted to take her to. And she had such substantial knee pain because she had so much weight on her. She was a self-proclaimed sugar addict, just foggy head around 3 p.m., hard time getting up, no energy, always craving chips and all the salty foods on top of a sweet tooth. So here we are. She was really unhappy and she was like, I don't know what to do. And I said, let me help you. So I started to help her. And I tell you that she visited me, let's see, May of 2022. She started her journey in June when she got back to Colorado. She visited me from Colorado. She came back here April of 2023, 50 pounds lighter. I tell you, we didn't take that car out of the garage when we walked. We walked 8-10 blocks. She took at least 100 pounds of pressure off of each knee per her orthopedic surgeon. So she'd lost so much weight. She looks so good. She like craves cauliflower now. She doesn't even want to eat the garbage foods that we talk about, like these processed foods that have all the chemicals. She's like, I can taste the chemicals now. I'm like, yeah, because you're connected to your body now. But yeah, so yeah, she was an amazing story of just overcoming. Now she's like a zealot. She tells everybody about like not eating processed food. She cracks me up.
So tell us more about your program. How do you work with your client? Is it one-on-one? Is it small group? How long does it take for them to start seeing some life-changing result?
I think internally, you're going to see some life-changing results sooner than you will externally, which sounds very, very strange. I'm not the person you're going to come to when you need to lose like 10 pounds for a wedding in a month. That's not me. I don't do short-term transformations. I am about a long-term transformation. And for me, weight loss will occur over a long period of time. So, and it may not even look like pounds on the scale. It may actually be you're losing inches off your waist because your body composition's shifting. So I work one-on-one with clients right now, and I'm working on perhaps getting a group program together here in the next couple of months. More to come with that. But right now it's one-on-one. And I talk to people, I work with them with their personal things that they like to eat, because I believe that you should be eating the food you want to eat. And so it's all based off of their own it's very personalized. We deal with their personal triggers, their obstacles, their struggles. And we look at those individual things that may be holding them back from their weight loss journey. Plus I give them a big education on the body. Everything I do is evidence-based. So I might have you make a couple of tweaks, like the time of day that you eat, like when you're going to have your biggest meal versus, like when you shouldn't eat and all of this stuff. And these small little hacks end up adding up over time. And they're so nominal. Like people don't even notice them. That's why it doesn't feel very restrictive. It's so great.
Beautiful, beautiful. How are you getting your clients?
I get them mostly through referrals. So it's like word of mouth is my most popular way. They have a very happy client who decides to be a walking billboard for me, which is great. Like they walk around, they're looking thin. So they're walking around looking good, having all this energy. And then people are like, what are you doing? They're like, you need to call my lady. So
Okay.
yeah.
Absolutely. Now, What would you say is a cause that you're deeply passionate about?
A cause I'm deeply, I really am passionate about the healthcare system being, changed here, at least in the US, and like what we're viewed as healthy foods be relabeled, because I think that we are misdirecting people, and a lot of it's on purpose so that these food companies can make a lot of money. I get why they're doing it, but it's not to the benefit of us as a whole, as a collective consciousness. So I feel really passionate about changing the way we view health. I want people to be empowered in their choices, so they can ask for different things, and then food makers will provide us different things. Like for years, we didn't think avocados were healthy because they were full of fat. Now, look, you can't find a place that doesn't have an avocado. You're like out of fashion if you don't have one. So
Totally. Now, fascinating conversation. But let's start wrapping things up. To finish, I'd like to ask a series of rapid fire questions on advices. Ready?
okay.
What's the best piece of advice you've received so far in your life?
To speak my truth, to
Mm,
like be myself. I know that sounds like really cliche, but it's like just to lean into who I am, and that's what's going to attract people to my
mhm.
business and to me. Yeah.
Beautiful. What's the worst piece of advice you received so far?
Oh, I've got so much advice that has been terrible.
Get a job, get married, and so on and so forth.
Oh man, I think one of the worst pieces of advice is God, I don't know. I think to play it safe.
Oh yeah.
Play it safe. Yeah.
There's no such thing as playing it safe anymore. Yeah.
There isn't.
No.
There isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine that you were blessed with a time machine. You can go back in time and sit face to face with 18-year-old Jelina. What's the first piece of advice you would give to her, knowing all that you know now?
Oh, I would tell her that um she's gonna be okay and that I love her.
Hmm.
And hang on, kid.
Yeah, all right.
You're in for a ride. Yeah.
Thank you, Auntie.
I hang on. I give her a hug and be like, hang on, girl. You just hang on. And also I'm like, I look cute now. So don't worry, you're gonna get there. Just hang tight. Yeah.
The time to shine will come. Just hang in there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Follow your heart.
You're not destined to be fat. I always felt that way. I felt like I was destined to
Oh,
be
yeah.
fat, but yeah.
Beautiful. Do you have your own podcast yet?
No, not yet.
My God. What's the number one reason you haven't started your podcast yet?
I feel like I'm pulled a little too thin. I have a lot of things, a lot of projects right now. So yeah, just trying to figure all that out.
Imagine you had a podcast and it was very successful. And today you're interviewing the most special person in the world, and that is yourself. What's the first question you want to ask yourself? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Don't think too much. First thing.
First thing that would come to my mind is, oh my God. I think if I had to interview myself, I think I would ask myself, yeah, what's the best? I like the question that you asked about what the best piece of advice is, but I think then I would also ask, that's a good question. I don't know.
No worries. No worries.
You asked all the good questions. How am I supposed to come back? I get,
What I do, you know?
You did. You asked them all. I'm like, what else am I, I'm like, why would you hire a diabetes health coach? Like, what makes you so special? I guess that would be my question. Like,
And
so.
what's your answer? What sets you, what makes you special in what you do? Actually,
What
I
makes
should
me
ask.
special? Yes. Well, what makes me special in what I do is that like, I'm not your regular healthcare provider, because I've been on that side of things. I do understand your body and the way drugs work in your body. And I have a healthy fear, and I'm going to try to get you off any medications I can, because I do understand meds, but also I've been there. I know what it's like to get in the car and actually drive to the store because your craving is so bad. Like that has been me in the past. Like I don't keep any sweets in my house, but I've been that person. I know what it's like when like you feel so down and out, or you are so down on yourself, or stepping on that scale and looking at that number go up when it should have gone the other direction, when you've been so good all week.
Mm.
And I know how disappointing it is and what a failure you can feel like. And I've been there. So when I work with people, it is my mission and my job to make sure that they don't feel any shame or guilt or blame for the situation that they're in. I just want to help them understand how their body works, so it works for them and not against them, because that's what was going on with me. So that's what makes me
Beautiful.
special. Yeah.
Beautiful. What's the most important lesson you've learned in life so far?
Oh man, you never know what is disguised as an opportunity. Like, sometimes the most incredibly painful moments in your life are these beautiful disasters for a reason. Like, because sometimes what's on the other side, it goes back to that logo theory of like assigning meaning. It's like, what was on the other side of this? Like, I never would have been here had X, Y, and Z had not happened. Had I not gone through that heartache, where I couldn't even get off the floor because my heart was so broken. And I felt like, I'm like, how am I going to get through another moment of my life? And to get through all that and know that on the other side is something so much more beautiful. And I don't know, that to me is the big thing.
Beautiful. How has failure shaped your life?
Oh, I never thought I was allowed to fail when I was young. And so I think I had an unhealthy fear of failure. Now I look at it as there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And that's the thing. Like, this is all feedback. If something doesn't go, it's like, well, what did I learn from this? Like, okay, maybe I shouldn't talk to this person this way, or maybe I need to learn to, do this instead, or this needs to go over here. And if I don't, like, I need to, it's all feedback.
Speaking of learning, what are you learning right now?
I'm learning a lot right now. I'm learning about body language, which is very fascinating.
Indeed.
And it's like, I'm taking a class on body language right now, which I think is completely fascinating, on trying to decipher how someone mentally speaks and their actual actions that they take with their body, because we communicate like 60 to 80% of it is through our body. And this is how we pick up and we can perceive things based off of this. So that class within itself is that's what I'm learning right now. I know you probably were asking something more global, but I mean, that's legit.
No,
What I'm
that's beautiful. What have you read that I should read?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think Man's Search for Meaning is a good one for you to definitely dive into. I think it really gives perspective. There's another book, I cannot remember the author's name. It's Edith, but it's called The Gift. She's also a Holocaust survivor. And I think she's also a psychologist, but the most profound stories coming from her own hurt and the way she's helped so many people along the way. And she talks about ways to get over struggling. And that, I think I was sobbing through most of it, but it was one of the most profound reads. Like, I was changed inside. I was changed like as a person. So yeah.
What have you experienced that I should experience?
Oh, what have I experienced that you should experience? I think having a big Indian family, it can be fun going out and, going out to party, like dancing and the food and the love. I mean, I'm sure it's probably pretty similar to what you're used to. Yes, all of the screwing in the light bulb, dancing.
We have the same in African culture, so
Yeah. So you probably experienced some of it, but yeah, that's so fun. Like, there's nothing like it, right? And the closeness that you have, like, your family may be all up in your business, but it's because they care. And it's like the minute they stop asking, then you're in trouble. Like, things have gone awry. Someone's mad at you. Yeah. Like,
absolutely. Wow, amazing. The last question I will ask, and that's my favorite question to ask, and that is, what is the smallest thing? And by small, I don't mean something small. I mean the one thing that you've done so far in your life that has had the greatest, deepest, most profound positive impact on both your life and business? For example, for me, Jelina has been starting my podcast. What about you?
My okay, what was the first part? My mistake. Did you say mistake?
No. What has been the smallest thing you've done so far that has had the greatest positive impact in your life? And I don't mean something small, I mean the one thing.
The one thing that was adopting him, because
Oh, wow.
I adopted him on a whim. This is probably not going to sound good, but listen, I'm going to tell this anyway. You can cut it out. I was in Manhattan visiting friends, and I was drunk, and I was day drinking, and my friend was like, let's go into this like little puppy place. And there was Manny was there, and then I saw him, and I put my hand up, and then he put his paw up, and I put my other hand up to put his paw up. And so then I was like, I'm adopting this dog. And I had to sign, I was signing paperwork, and I went back to the hotel room, and I was like, I adopted a dog, and everyone's like, you've never had a dog in your life. And I was like, I know. And I had to fly 4 hours with him back to Denver the next day. I had to look an Uber to even find out where he was at, so I could find him to bring him home. But I brought him home. And what's wild is the trajectory of events that happened after that. Like, I had toxic people that were in my life that stopped being my friends because I adopted a dog.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
it's the wildest thing. I think she had a lot more going on than that, but that was her reasoning. And it was this whole thing of how I started to approach my life, because then I realized, like, I have a friend, and because of him, I felt like strong enough to like move to California, and I wasn't worried during the beginning of a pandemic, because I moved to April of 2020. And he has been like my little partner and cohort. Like, my whole life changed because I meet people because of him all the time. And so I have to say, like, getting this little guy, like, he's been so supportive, and like, also he's shown me love in a way I didn't even know I had.
Love. Yes. The purest form of unconditional love comes from animals, especially from dogs.
Yes. So, I have all this love to give, and now I have, something to pour it into. So yeah, the single thing that I did, adopting him, I was scared out of my mind. I cried, I think, the whole day that I got him. And I cried so much because I was so scared. I was so frightened. I thought I was going to ruin his life. I thought I ruined my life, because I was like, I had no business owning a dog. But my sister-in-law,
what did your parent think of it?
My dad stopped talking to me for a couple months. And he said to me, by the way, Payman, I am so particular about things. Like, it took me 20 years to buy a mattress. Okay. 20 years to buy a brand new mattress. Okay. I'm so particular. So my dad said, he was like, God, you're so, like, I can't even remember. He's like, you don't think before you do anything. And I said, are you serious right now? Like, I think about everything too much. I have analysis paralysis. This is the one time I made a purchase. Like, I adopted like this dog and invested all this money it was spontaneous. It was one of the very few spontaneous moments of my life. But yeah, my parents were not happy. Now my mom's always asking about me, because I'm basically her grandkid. Like, yes. So she's asking all the time about Manny now. So
your father has learned to love him now?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, he tolerates him, but he's in a different state, and I'm not mad about it. They didn't grow up with dogs, so it's not, it's a different way.
My father was my first wouldn't get in when you close it, but after they absolutely loved it. Yes.
Yes. So like, and my mom, she's into it. My sister who has disabilities adores him, and he adores her, and he's so good with her. And I think, the best thing that ever happened. But it was a very rough month, because I was adjusting to a dog. I had lost a friend, and my dad wasn't talking to me. I was like, I was all up in arms that month. I was like,
wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
Listen, Jelina, absolute pleasure talking to you. If someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
You can go to my website, which is www.jelinashahconsulting.com. You can find Jelina Shah Consulting on Instagram, on Facebook. If you're a TikTok person, you can find me as Dr. Sugar Bomb on TikTok. Yeah, lots of places.
Beautiful. I will put all of those in the show notes. Listen, I salute you. You're a true leader with a heart. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world with everything, with your presence, with your impact, with your contagious smile, your personality, with your impact. Stay safe, stay awesome. God bless you. We're definitely going to be talking soon. Have a fantabulous evening and happy 4th of July. And talk to you very soon. Take care, my friend.
Bye.
Take care.